Labor has recently announced plans to revamp the strained family law system, arguing there needs to be greater emphasis on the interests of children in bitter parental disputes, which of course everybody wants and supports. But as we know in this area, the devil's in the detail, and there are concerns Labor's proposal to abolish the presumption of shared parenting could cut fathers out of the law. Joining me now, Professor Patrick Parkinson, Emeritus Professor at the University of Queensland's Law School and a former chairperson of the Family Law Council. Patrick, thank you for your time. I think everyone's got a stake in this issue because we want, even amidst divorce, we want families to prosper in the interest of the children that then move between the two households. So that's the presumption. The role model of mum and the role model of dad is still big in a child's life. But there is a bit of concern that Labor's changes here are going to upend where we've got to in recent years about this shared parental model. What can you tell us?
Well, they are going to upend that model completely if they are enacted. Now, just to calm people on this, it's an exposure draft. I don't think that the government's thought through a lot of the issues with great respect, and I'm not expecting the exposure draft to be the final version. But if it is, then almost everything which has been achieved in terms of at least encouraging parents to think about the idea of shared parenting, the idea of equal time, which works for a few parents, or time which is not just at the weekends and school holidays, time during the school week. Some of these emphases in the Act at the moment, they will all be deleted from the Act. And so we'll be back in a sense to, or at least there's a risk of going back to a 1980s sort of model where kids are primarily with mum and just see dad every other weekend and at some time in the school holidays. That's the danger of these changes.
I didn't hear much about this prior to the election at all. Did you think that the law was so broken they needed this radical change?
No, I absolutely don't. And obviously the law at the moment is prolix. It's a bit, wordy and not very, very clear in places. But we can simplify the law. We can clarify. And actually, the system is working a lot better than it has done for years. So disrupting all that is a mistake in my view. These recommendations come largely from the Law Reform Commission. But what people need to understand about that is that the Law Reform Commission inquiry into family law was deeply troubled. The commissioner in charge, very sadly, due to ill health, had to resign only 4 to 5 months before the report was due. The government didn't give it an extension, and it had terms of reference which were frankly breathtaking, impossible to do. And so the report was written in a hurry, and a lot of its ideas were very good and are there in the bill. No problem with that. But some of these issues simply should have been the subject of much broader consultation. And had they been, I don't think we would have seen them being made in the form they are now.
I've just come back from Alice Springs and I met with a lot of locals, of course, but an Aboriginal elder, a traditional man in particular, struck me, where he was talking about the absence of male role models in the lives of a lot of the kids he deals with who end up in juvenile facilities and often than not, sadly, a life of crime. This is the risk here. I know one of the driving forces is, the reduction of domestic violence, taking kids out of vulnerable situations. But as he argues, kids need men in their lives.
They do, and if you go back to the origins of the 2006 reforms, they were John Howard as Prime Minister saying he was so concerned that children were growing up without any role models in their lives until their teenage years, when they might have a popular male teacher at high school. And so this has been a driver for 20 years of family law reform to try to do the best we can to keep both parents involved in children's lives. And all the research tells you that unless there is violence or abuse, which is continuing, or really high conflict, it's best for children to try to maintain that relationship with both parents. That doesn't mean just dad coming every other weekend to take the kids to McDonald's or to a movie. Dads need to be involved in all the parenting, the homework, the bedtime routines and the getting up in the morning and sending kids to school as far as possible. being involved in those things is incredibly beneficial to children and can reduce the harmful effects of family separation. So this is really important, and it's really important to children above all.
I reckon it's pretty good for men too to be hands-on dads, and I think that's something that's changed and evolved over the years, and I think many men would now say that's a big part of who they are. Professor Patrick Parkinson, thank you for joining us.